Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again, and I'm here with my 48-hour review of the Oppo Reno 3 5G. Now before I get into it guys, apologies ahead of time if you do hear any drilling. It's been a major issue here in the last week. Trying to film stuff at home has been really tough, so if you do hear anything, apologies ahead of time for that. So here's the Reno 3 that I got 2 days back. I got this phone for 3,700 Hong Kong dollars. It's in that price range and can be had for maybe a little less, but still a pretty expensive phone here. And I want to see mainly what is the deal with this Dimensity 1000, and this is the first phone I've tested on Frankie Tech with this chipset. Now as you can see, it's a very beautiful phone, but there's certain aspects of the hardware that I'm a bit concerned about with this release compared to the Oppo Reno 3 Pro, and so we'll go through those as well. But really wanting to compare this Dimensity 1000 next to some of the other smartphone chipsets that I have, like Snapdragon 855 and the 765G. So we'll go down the list here in quick order, and I hope you enjoy actually this top-down video, but I will be doing a kind of face-to-face video comparison between those phones very soon, so stay tuned for that. But let's get started. But quickly before we jump into that, let me show you what was inside the box. Going to be a similar unboxing here to the Oppo Reno 3 Pro. So same kind of books as last time. We have the little sleeve and where the phone came in. Let's lift that. And there we go. Just pretty standard unboxing. Similar to the Reno 3 Pro, we have the TPU case that came included. We have the USB-C charging cable, SIM ejector tool, and we do have a nice brick here. It is a 30-watt charger. Nice thing to see here in the just regular version, not the Pro version. And we also have the included earbuds. So very nice addition there. So I think Oppo is doing a better job with unboxings or including more stuff in the box than usual. The addition here of headphones does make a difference. But anyways, just wanted to show you guys it's pretty much the same deal here as you get on the Oppo Reno 3 Pro. So talking about design, we have an 8mm 181 gram device. So this is actually thicker and heavier than the Oppo Reno 3 Pro, which I do have next to me right here. And just from that alone, I could already feel, you see, it's a far more sleek device compared to the Oppo Reno 3 regular. So we're going to put that aside for now. But the main thing I want to talk about is the build quality of this phone. So considering the price point, I assumed that the edge of this phone was metallic. Kind of surprised and a little bit like miffed to find out that it was plastic. And I gotta say, that is a major no-no at this price for me. At this price, this had better be metal, especially when you have phones like the Realme X2 Pro on the market for far less with a metal edge. So I think that has not sat well with me over the past 2 days. We do have this really beautiful back though. Look at that gorgeous back there. And a very basic Oppo branding. But the other thing I like less about this phone, and to bring in the Reno 3 Pro again, is the inclusion of glossy back versus matte back. Now you can kind of see them right there. Glossy backs, they're just so 2019 guys. It's time for manufacturers to move to this beautiful matte back style and no longer use these kind of glossy backs. I'm just not a fan of them anymore, and I really hope that future OEMs don't do this. Like, just start trying the matte backs. I think it's what consumers want. It's definitely what I want. I think it's still a nice looking phone in terms of hardware. As you can see right here, the bottom bezel it's relatively small. It's definitely not as small as the one on the Oppo Reno 3 Pro. So you're getting a little bit larger bezel and you're getting the teardrop notch. When you combine those things together, is there anything about this phone's design that I do like? I would say the main thing is a flat display. That's probably the main thing I like. And as you can tell, I'm a huge fan of flat displays. So that's the one plus point here. But design-wise, it's kind of a letdown with this Oppo Reno 3. And I think for the price, you guys deserve better. And between drilling and kids crying, guys, it's a wonder that I even am able to get out content. Anyways, let's continue with this and talking about display now. So that flat panel display is a positive thing for me, and it is an AMOLED display. It is very nice. But once again, we have another hardware decision that I think could have been done on this phone that wasn't, and that is the exclusion of a 90 hertz display. There's no 90 hertz capability here, and it just kind of gets me a little bit, I don't know. When I know that the Realme X2 Pro is out there with a 90 hertz refresh rate and practically the same screen as this. It's pretty much almost exactly the same display as you would see on the Realme X2 Pro, but without that buttery smoothness. And once you have used that kind of thing, I tell you, you don't want to go back. Refresh rates are really becoming the hottest thing in 2020 phones. And this being a 90 hertz refresh rate, eventually people are going to say, well, it's not 120, that's not good enough. Right now, I think 90 hertz is the gold standard for what you want. 90 hertz AMOLED, but this phone is 60 hertz AMOLED. It's a good display and it has nice colors that pop, and the refresh rate, you know, it's 60, so it's nothing special. It's just something that I think, though, for the price, they should have included here. But beyond that, you still have a beautiful 6.4-inch display to watch content, Gorilla Glass 5, and around a 430 nits of kind of typical brightness you'll get from this phone. And here's YouTube playback on the Oppo Reno 3 5G. And yes, the teardrop notch does create a little bit of an annoyance here. I think the punch hole I appreciate a bit more, especially when it's small. It's much less obvious. But as you can see, colors look good, and I think the overall viewing experience is good. Now, one question I do have here is dual speakers. Does this have the dual speakers of the Pro version? It does not. It is a single bottom firing speaker here. And so once again, you're seeing the separation between the Pro version and the regular version, but not much of a separation in price. And that's what I think is really making me kind of start leaning towards the Pro version here. But YouTube playback, I think, does a solid job, similar to any of the kind of top phones of 2019. But in DRM Info, not a positive side here. L3 went wow again, and that's standard, I think, with most China ROMs and versions of China phones in this case. So you wouldn't expect any different here with the Oppo Reno 3 5G. And talking about performance, this is the big section here. We're talking about this new Dimensity 1000. This is the L version though here, and it is a Mediatek MT6885Z. So that's a 7nm process, and the first time Mediatek has reached that level of process in their chips. And I think the other main point here is that this phone, this chipset, sorry, is 5G capable. So it's the first, and it's going to be competing against all the other chipsets like the 765G, like the 865G, Kirin 990, like the Exynos 990. All of those chipsets are going to be fighting it out. But what does Mediatek have here to offer? They have a pretty solid chipset with a single core score of 666. We're talking about similar to Snapdragon 855 performance, maybe a little bit lower in that case. But when it comes to multi-core, look at that. We are actually surpassing the OnePlus 7 Pro in terms of scoring. Antutu as well. So here are the Antutu scores for the Oppo Reno 3 5G. And I think it's a pretty solid effort here on the part of this phone. So I think that it really begs the question, is this Dimensity 1000 chipset a legit chipset? Well, we'll do some PUBG gaming in a little bit, but I think just from raw power alone, this is looking like a very exciting chipset. And let me say it, it may be my first Mediatek chipset that I'm not worried about. That I'm not worried about recommending, because I'm really confident in the 7nm process here. And I think if you're getting scores like this, you're going to have better efficiencies already. One of my biggest issues with the, for example, G90T that was in the Redmi Note 8 Pro was that it got hot. That was my experience. It always overheated when playing games and doing all this stuff. I'm pretty confident that at 7nm, Dimensity 1000 is actually going to do the job and do it well. And in terms of battery life, still waiting to get to the first complete charge here, so I don't have those details yet. As you can see though, the phone is at 10%. I did not charge it yesterday. I brought it on my big hike yesterday and was taking photos, but I will be fully charging this phone obviously and sharing my battery results very soon, so stay tuned for that. Just in terms of actual specs for battery, we're talking about a 4025 milliampere capacity, and we're talking about 30 watt fast charging. So pretty similar specs here to what we saw on the Oppo Reno 3 Pro. So not the fastest charging in phones, and a decent sized battery, but not as big as I probably would like of phones in 2020. And another quick thing of note is the fingerprint scanner. I wanted to bring this out here. it is not the same fingerprint scanner, guys, that is on the Pro version. So the surface area of the fingerprint scanner is actually smaller. It's kind of similar to the ones just in previous phones. And you see the speed. It's still, though, very fast. So I think they're still using a very quick and modern version of this fingerprint scanner technology. It's just not the larger surface area of the Pro version. And another quick thing to mention is, yes, this is ColorOS version 7, same as the Reno 3 Pro. So you're going to have that kind of improved experience from the previous versions of ColorOS, which I think now this is definitely a nice piece of software. It still has some problems. It still has some jitters. You know, they do happen, but it just feels like a more polished piece of software than what I've seen before. Now, as you've probably seen in the news headlines, that there is going to be, at least from Realme, a new Realme OS for something much more minimalist, something that kind of is closer to the OnePlus side versus the ColorOS side. I like this. This is getting better, but I think they could do an even better job with that Realme OS, so we'll wait and see how that goes. And now, quick audio test. I'll bring the mic down. Let's have a listen. So what can I say? Decent audio performance. It's not the best sounding speaker, and I think it's a little bit muddled at the high end, but I was running that test at 100%. Like I said, once again, the theme of this phone, considering the price point and considering I just tested the Reno Pro version with that dual stereo speaker Dolby Atmos setup, this single bottom firing speaker on this unit just seems like a little bit of a letdown. And so in terms of audio, it's good, but it's not great. And that's a pity considering the price point. But now, talking about cameras, we have a different approach here on this version of the phone over the Pro version. So instead here we have elected that 64 megapixel, and I'm pretty sure it's the Samsung sensor, because in this case we have a higher megapixel count than the Sony IMX 586 from the Pro version. Now, I think the cameras on the Oppo Reno 3 series in general is probably the least. It is the most run-of-the-mill aspect of these phones. Now, they do have quad camera setups, and they do have this ultra steady shot as well that has been included. But I just think that there are manufacturers that are delivering a little bit more in the camera front than not just Oppo, but all the Realme, Vivo, BBK family of phones, OnePlus, you name it. But one thing about this phone that does help it here is that Dimensity 1000. And as you can see, it's a fast shutter. It's a very, very speedy shutter, much faster than the one on the Mi Note 10 Pro and any of those other phones. So I think you're going to at least appreciate that aspect of taking photos. And looking at BBA, let's look at the quality here. Looks good. I don't think this is going to do a bad job in kind of regular lighting, but have a look at these photo samples that I've taken so far and hit me up in the comments. What do you think? And this is rear-facing video on the Oppo Reno 3 5G. And you can see they are setting up for the Lunar Festival here in Victoria Park. There's Queen Victoria herself. Beautiful sunset coming to late afternoon here in Hong Kong. As you can see in the distance, I can't get in there though. Looks pretty good, shooting in 4K. Hit me up in the comments. What do you think? And this is front-facing video on the Oppo Reno 3 5G, shooting in 1080p. Yes, I did get a haircut. Was getting out of control, so I'm gonna be hiking a lot more in the next couple of weeks. So I need to be clean, ready to hit the hills. Looks pretty good though. Quality looks good. Hit me up in the comments. What do you think? Okay, now let's test this Dimensity 1000 out. Even if it is the slightly underclocked L version, it's performed great so far. But how is it going to perform here with some PUBG action? It's recommending the high specs, so that's a positive thing. Let's go right into it. And so now you see the settings, HDR Ultra. Can we do Ultra HD? Very few phones I've ever seen to be able to do Ultra HD. Coming soon. So we're going to play HDR Ultra here using the Dimensity 1000 realistic settings. We're going to enable anti-aliasing and we're going to disable auto adjust graphics. So let's get started. And it's time. It's time for the classic Frankie Tech swim test. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Woo! Oh yeah. And he's swimming good. And full use of the display, a nice thing to see right here. And we're at the plane jump. How is this Dimensity 1000 doing? On HDR Ultra settings, this chipset is looking very legit, guys. Let's get down to the surface, get some guns, get some action. And I've suited up real quick this time. Let's see if I can have better luck this time than I've had previously. And I've landed in a pretty populated area, so let's see if I can find some guys quick. And so far, no slowdowns here on the Dimensity 1000L. This chipset is handling this game like a beast. And I think I saw someone just go through that building there. Let's see if I can find them. I think I just saw someone. There they are. Take that. And you're still standing. Oh, he's dead. Okay. I was like, what is going on there? That was clearly a bot. I know it because you know what? When it's a human, I get killed pretty quick. But the first kill here on the Oppo Reno 3 5G. Guys, and it's getting to one of those games where you can't find people. And I'm going to move into the red zone here to see if I can get a little bit more action. But we've been running around. How is this Dimensity 1000 doing? It's cool to the touch, guys. That is so amazing to see. I can promise you, if I was playing this game right now with the Redmi Note 8 Pro with that G90T that was so touted as such a gaming beast of a chipset, this phone would be super hot right now. And this phone is cool to the touch. And that's what I've always mentioned here. It's about the efficiency of the chipset. 7 nanometers is just going to do a better job than 12 nanometers or 10 nanometers. And so you're just going to have a better gaming experience with that type of situation. This may be the first chipset from Mediatek that I can highly recommend and tell you this is going to be in a lot of phones this year, so stay tuned for that. But that's it for this quick gameplay. I can't find anyone else and the battery's about to die, so better do the final verdict now. So here we go. So that's it for this video, guys, and my final verdict here on the Oppo Reno 3 5G. This is a case of great chipset, average phone. And honestly, I think this is one of those cases where I can't even believe I'm saying it. Mediatek is the reason why you might even want to consider this phone. Because of this Dimensity 1000L, we are looking at great, efficient performance in terms of the experience, the fluidity, and in terms, I think, mostly of just future-proofing. With 5G on board, there's so many aspects of this chipset that I think are going to be really popular this year. And is the first Mediatek chipset that I can actually recommend, just from my experience of using this phone here. Now, when it comes to the Oppo Reno 3, though, I think there are compromises that you should really consider other options instead. Namely, the Oppo Reno 3 Pro 5G. And with the Snapdragon 765, I think this is a much more valuable and just much more enjoyable premium experience smartphone versus the Reno 3. You're not paying much more, so go ahead and get the Reno 3 Pro. You will not regret it. But this Reno 3, from the plastic edges to the just kind of underwhelming design, glossy back is nice, but as you can see is a fingerprint magnet. The one thing I do like is the flat panel display, but it is only 60 Hz. And now in this era of 90 Hz displays for rock bottom prices, you just can't really get away with that now. So I'm really saying 90 Hz AMOLED is the gold standard, and phones that don't have that can already be considered kind of a minus because they don't have it. Add to that the bottom, kind of weaker bottom firing speaker and decent cameras. Nothing like too impressive, but just really nothing that actually separates this phone. I don't think that this phone really brings much to the table except for one thing, and that is the chipset. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Mediatek, good job Mediatek. I think you have a winner here on your hands in the chipset, not in the phone. This is a very meh, very average phone release, and I will not be keeping this one at all. You definitely know, though, which one I'm mostly going to be considering. And like I said, the drilling is getting really bad. So let's wrap this video up, guys. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, guys, and stay tuned for this full comparison. I will be still comparing these new chipsets versus the Snapdragon 855. If you are an owner of a Mi 9T Pro, is it worth looking at these new modern 5G chipsets? Stay tuned for that video, and we'll come back to that very soon. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. This is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one.